Hello and welcome back to the Align Your Design podcast, where we discuss everything related to the art and science of living in alignment with your human design. Now, there's a lot of information out there about human design that's gaining popularity by the minute. It can be hard to sort through all that information and know what is accurate and what isn't. So it can also be challenging to know how to apply it to your own life, since one of the most powerful aspects of human design is how specific we can get with each individual, right down to how you think, how you experience emotions, interact with others, live your purpose, share your ideas, market yourself, and even make money. So at Align Your Design, we focus on both the science and the intuitive, practical art of living true to your natural energetic design, so you can create your life and business in a way that brings deep satisfaction, success, peace, and delight, all through alignment. So I'm so glad you're joining us today. I can't wait to introduce you to my guest, Leann Wolf. She is up in Canada. She is at the Power of Self. And oh my God, she is one of my co-instructors over at the BG5 Business Institute. She is a friend, a colleague, and a comrade in geeking out on human design. So if I kind of consider myself, I have a master's degree in psychology, and also I would say I pretty much have a master's degree in human design. And if that's the case, then Leann probably has like a PhD in human design. So she's got a little more studying and information and science under her belt. And I cannot wait to have a discussion with her and have her share what she knows. We are going to set some records straight today, and we're going to help you understand what's accurate, what isn't, and how to live in alignment. So welcome, Leann. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, Chris, thank you very much. I am so grateful that you asked me to do this. Again, geeking out on this has been 7 years of my life. So I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, so
thank
fun.
you.
So fun. So Leann, when
Yes.
you first were introduced to human design, like take me back, take us back. What was your introduction? You said earlier, you're like, I just took it all. Like if someone handed you a shot glass, you were like, I'll take the bottle. Yeah.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about what was going on for you, and kind of what did you see in it, and how did you get started?
Okay. So back in 2012, my physical body was basically telling me, no more corporate Canada. No more. You just need to get out of there. And luckily, my husband and I, we did some financial planning, and I was able to walk away from a very lucrative career. And I was home for about a year. We have a cattle ranch, so it's not that I was just sitting on the couch. And just one day, I just put into the computer, like, no kidding, New Age Business, and human design popped up. It's like, what? So it was a very interesting introduction to it. So I had actually, about a week prior, I got an email, and there was an email about human design. But when I went onto the website, it was like, there was something there that didn't connect with me. Yeah. And then the week after, when I typed in New Age Business, the teachings of Ra Uruhu and Jovian Archive is actually what came up.
Yeah.
And the minute that I saw that website, I just knew, here it is. This is the real juice of it. Yeah. So I ordered the book and I began self-studying, and then, it wasn't a shot glass. It was a fire hose that I drank through for 7 years. So basically, what I did is I took all the classes on the human design at the IHDS, at the Human Design International School, took all of those. And then when the BG5 Business Institute was created, I also took, all of those classes as well, and most of them with you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been it has been 7 years of drinking through a fire hose. So that's where I'm at.
Oh my God. I love it. And just for everybody who's listening, so IHDS and the BG5 Business Institute are the source materials, and Jovian Archive. Those are all connected. They are the source materials for human design. So if you want to go to the source and you want to learn the most accurate information about human design, then go to one of those places. BG5 Business Institute is basically all the source material of human design in business terminology. So we have stayed very true to the original words and the original energy of human design, and just made it a little more practical. And so whether you're using this for personally or professionally, I really like the BG5 terminology. It's very grounded and
Me too.
yeah. So
Me too.
oh my gosh. Yeah. So what's been and oh, by the way, why don't you tell us what your type is and your authority, just so everybody knows that as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want me to pop up our charts on the screen?
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's look at, It's always fun to look at charts.
Take a look at that. So this is just today's chart. I just thought I would bring it up. So
Perfect.
Here's me. I am a manifesting generator, or in business terms, an express builder with sacral or follow your gut authority. And there's, this chart's, there's lots of power in there. The other day when I was doing one of my videos for YouTube, I kind of had a little joke. I'm like, my limitation is, I was put into this 5'1" little tiny body, because this powerhouse of a design, if I was to be put into a 6'4" male body, this frequency, it would have been very, very scary, And, I'm this little tiny petite little girl, and there's a powerhouse within this design. So I love it. The deeper and deeper I get into it, and the more I watch it express itself in the world, I am in awe as to the beauty, as to the connection. I love it. I love it all.
I love something you just said, and this is a feeling that I also have. You said, the more I understand it and the more I really appreciate it. This is such a, I think, a really beautiful distinction, is that we are, and I often say this, right? Our design does us, not the other way around.
Yep. And
that when we first start out, we're like, I am. And then there's something that happens when we really start to understand the design, and we start to work with it and almost depersonalize from it, because we start to see this is really the mechanics of how our body and our expression works in the world. And we start to separate that and go, oh, that's cool. And I remember there's this moment where I fell in love with my design, because I stopped sort of making it about me and started to look at it in terms of oh, that is fucking cool. Whoa, I can do that. That is neat, and it really does. We talk about it's our vehicle. And when you start to see how your vehicle operates, you're like, oh, that is cool. It becomes less about oh, it's me and blah, all that stuff that all the field of psychology is built on, and it becomes this really cool, freeing mechanics that is actually super liberating.
Totally liberating. Yeah. So really, how I look at it is, when you have your body graph and you have that picture on that piece of paper, that is your unique representation of God.
Yeah. Totally.
Just like Jesus was the unique expression of God. And you and I, and any human design professional and BG5 business professional, when we have that chart, there's no illness, there's no mental unrest there, there's just beauty there. And Jesus said that, he didn't see the illness, he saw the wellness. And something that Ra also said was that when I see that body graph, I see that brand new fresh little baby coming into the world. So you and I get to see that beautiful expression of God. And then we step into this world and we get all this cluttering and conditioning and all this garbage in our way. But when we can come back to the beauty of how simple that frequency is if we just get out of the way and let it operate through us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's,
Exactly.
that's so, it's so powerful.
It's so powerful. And I think that like this comes back to the art and the science of it. So the science of it is, we look at that chart, and I remember the first time I looked at a chart and I was like, mind you, I had a psychotherapy practice. I was doing energy psychology. So I was already on the fringe like of the psychology, field. I was already like doing energy stuff, hypnotherapy, aura, biofield, chakra work, EFT, all that stuff. And then I see this chart. And how I was introduced to it, kind of going back to what you were saying, is that I was writing a book, and it was like, I came to this realization that we cannot make anyone or anything all right by focusing on what's wrong. It just doesn't work. And yet I was trained to do that. I was steeped in that. I mean, that was like, I was trained to diagnose what's wrong and figure that out. Well, I was spending hours trying to figure out what was wrong with me, because I kept looking at everybody and going, well, they can do it. Why can't I? And that's when it hit me. Wait a minute, I'm looking in the wrong spot. And then I was like, well, what do I do now? How do I show people what's right about them? I have no idea how to do that. And that's when human design came into my world. And that's I looked at that map and I was like, this looks like Chinese to me. I have no idea what this is, and, but there was something about it. There's something about the frequency of it that I was like, there's truth in here. I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but I need to know about this. And that's how I got started, and just like you, just started studying everything, and then realizing at some point, I had a lot of people, studying and taking some classes here and there. And it wasn't, and people really wanted to say, oh, well, you're an expert. And I was like, don't even, no, I'm not comfortable with that, because that's the thing. Like, this is okay, we're going to start to get into a little bit of our like ranty here, is where, in the coaching industry, there's so much of like, establish your expertise, like all that stuff. I mean, I have a freaking master's degree. I've been working in the field of psychology, self-help, and all that for over 25 years. Like all of these things, I've, been studying human design for like 9 years now. It's just, I have a full circle of you and I both have a full 7-year cycle of our deconditioning process under our belts, all of this stuff. Right. And but there's such a pressure to say you're an expert. And when I look out there at people who are calling themselves experts, and I'm like, you just started studying, like what the F, and even today, like I have a hard time even claiming that, because I'm like, the more I know, the more I see how much I don't know.
Exactly.
And the more I see how my mind is the thing that wants to claim all of this stuff. But if I just come back to the design and let it do me, let it do its thing, there's no need for any of that. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Go. What do you got?
So I think the only thing we can be experts in is just witnessing ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's really what design is teaching us, right? Yeah. You and I can fill our brains with all kinds of mind candy. Yeah, we can do that all day long. But if we're still up there and in there and trying to operate from there, we're not an expert in absolutely fuck all. Yeah. So the whole point of this is to, have the permission to be that being that literally witnesses the frequency come through us, period. Yeah. That's all we've been asked to do. We've been asked to be this self-reflected consciousness in this bubble of biology, in this meat suit. Can we actually be conscious and navigate on this plane, on this material plane? Exactly. And that's what human design is asking us. It isn't asking us to be an expert. It isn't actually asking us to make money. It's not asking us to do anything but just witness. That's all it is asking us to do, and allow for that consciousness, allow for that God code to expand the whole.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this in psychology, the mind, the minute the mind gets in the way, we have chaos, period.
Totally. It's funny you talk about chaos. So this is my interpretation of chaos, the trait 3 of chaos. At its challenge level, or its, shadow level, is chaos. But it's so interesting. It's like through chaos is where innovation comes from. It's where something new and can come from. However, there's a difference between the mind chaos and being unconscious there, and just like, staying in our head about all of this, and then dropping into the body, into what we know, into our awareness, and watching and letting the design do its thing. And that the moment that starts to, there's a moment, and it's like a series of moments. And then there's this, I just kind of have this sense, like, it was probably like a year and a half ago, that it just, like, it clicked. There was something that clicked into place where I started to see it in a very different way. I started to see myself, see design, everything in a very different way. Not from how much information can I consume, but how much can I live embodied in it.
Yep. And the word for that, Chris, surrender.
Oh, hell yes. Can we get an amen and a hallelujah on surrender? So much of the design is just, and human design is asking us to surrender over and over and over again. And yet, and I have trait 21 control, you think I'm going to surrender to anything? Oh, hell no, I'm going to go kicking and screaming. Yes. And yet constantly over and over and over again. And here's what's cool is that each one of us in our design, right, the science part of it, our body map, our body graph is our unique pathway to surrender. All the things that are going to come up in our world, that the fears and the beliefs and the constructs and the ways that our body moves through space and time are all the different things that are going to be our unique path, journey to surrender. Yeah. You and I both have the format strength or channel of cycles. Yes. Let's chat about that. Tell us about your experience of this one. Yeah.
So let's take a look. So here it is in my body graph, and there it is in Chris's. And when I look back, my whole life is cycles. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter, there's no breaking out of that. It's there. It's a part of who I am. I watch the cycles. I have a really awesome example when I was in corporate Canada. Mm-hmm. Like, my physical body was telling me that the cycle was over. And what was really interesting is that the financial institution that I was working for, they were moving to a new computer system. Mm-hmm. And they, corporate office had been looking for this new computer system for about 3 years. And then when they were ready, we had about a year to play around. They were building it out. And I knew, like, the minute that announcement came out, there was just something in me that's like, I'm not going to enter into this next new cycle of this new computer system. And it was so fun because, I was a manager. I was a branch manager. I had, staff members underneath me. I was supposed to become an expert of the computer system so that I could support my team. And the funny part is, not one of my managers realized I never took one class. I never learned anything about it. I never even went onto the platform of it, ever. Yeah. But my people, before I left, they were experts in it. So nobody had a clue. And I just knew that cycle was coming to an end. I wasn't entering in, and I stepped out 3 weeks before the go live of that computer system, because I knew that my team, they were good. They had it cased, right? So watching those, you know, cycles in my life, and then seeing human design and being able to go back and go, oh, well, there it all is. That's just how it is, right? How does it play out for you, Chris?
Oh God, you know, you and I've had some really beautiful discussions about this, and you know, personally and professionally, I've watched it in my relationships and certain relationships where I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to start this, or meeting someone and going, I can't start something with this person. Like I just because I know, like if I'm going to start, you know, something with someone, that there's going to be an end. I mean, and it's interesting. I think back when I was a kid, it was always really like when I'm done with something, oh, I'm done. Like I'm so done that I sometimes don't even remember that I had the experience. I'm that done. I take the lesson, but I can't even remember it. Someone will go, oh, remember when we did this? I'm like, oh, you're right. That was like a whole year of my life. And I totally forget that I did that. And so when I'm complete with something, I'm like complete. And, you know, I've had like some struggles with that where people are like, why can't you go back and remember this? I want you to, you know, rehash this. And I'm just like, can't, because I'm done. And I also kind of thought, you know, growing up that because I was done with certain things, it was like, what's wrong with me? You know, why can't, is there something wrong with me that I'm not totally emotionally involved now again? Because again, this is experiential. And, you know, and has a lot to do with our experiences and our emotions. And then what's cool is that now in my business, so I see now where I entered into a lot of cycles incorrectly because of my mind. My mind was like, ooh, if I do this, then I will get such and such, right? Again, this is living from the mind, not the sacral. And so it was living from in order to, or so that.
That's right.
That's mind. That is not the sacral that giving me that information. And so what would happen is I would get involved and then I couldn't finish it, you know, or, and then, you know, it would upset other people or, you know, I'd look bad or whatever, or just like, or the energy would fizzle out and then I'd judge the hell out of myself. And then I'd be trying to, you know, heal all the shame of blah, blah. It was just stupid. It's like all like just a bunch of stupid shit, like all created simply because I wasn't following the cycles. And now, you know, when I feel the urge to start a cycle, because I am starting a new, you know, cycle with the Builder Revolution, is immediately I could feel the energy of it. In the past, I would just jump without a little more clarity. And this time I was like, this is big. This is huge. And I just waited and just sat there and did work every day. You know, I was always doing something around it, but I was like, it hasn't clicked yet. It hasn't clicked yet. And I'm going to wait until it clicks. And as soon as it did, oh girl, I am off and running. Like it is amazing. And in the past, I would have just took off and started doing it and not waiting for that clarity and the true start. Because now I can finish it. You know? So it's huge. It's so huge. And you said something to me once that was so deeply profound. It like really, really, it made a huge difference. And we were talking about cycles and we were talking about, you know, personal relationships. And you just said, you're like, you know, I was wrapped around the pole in my head, you know, just like, is it this? Is it, you know, because here's the thing, right? There's no perfection. You know, anybody who's like, oh, I'm totally in alignment. I like never, they're fucking lying. You know, this is not about mastering the design so that you never have a fear, that you never get wrapped around the pole, that your mind never has an issue. It is about being able to know, that is mind. That is me in the conditioning or activation field. That is this, that's it. And you said something, you go, has your body left yet? Has your body done something yet? And I was like, no. And you're like, well, you're not done yet. And I was like, huh? Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, I totally remember that. And really, you know, again, design is saying, witness the body. So if you're in a cycle, and your physical body isn't moving you out of the cycle, there's no natural close happening there.
Yes.
So the physical body now needs to start something new. So if there's that new thing hasn't started and your physical body is still in the relationship or in the cycle, let your physical body still be there.
Yeah.
Because there's something there that is allowing you to drop deeper into your self-reflected consciousness.
Yes.
But, you know, what we do, the conditioning field, you know, I'm just going to pull up again. I just want to pull up our charts, just so that we can see this. So, you know, when we look at the 41st gate, the 41st gate is moving up to the 30, over to the 36, up to the 35. So there's a hunger here, and this hunger for, you know, new experiences is happening here. And this hunger allows us to then get to progress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we have the 53 that starts off this new beginning, these new cycles that move up, so that we can then discover ourselves and have a reflection as to, why did that take place for me? And this is all body.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with mind. And then here's what happens. The mind gets to express it. It gets to talk about the story of it. It gets to come to this, you know, realization of, why was I in that experience?
Yeah.
But the actual physical movement into the cycle or into a new experience has nothing to do with mind. It's not on the mental plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what happens is our mind gets involved. And then we actually, instead of coming to progress in the 35, we regress, right? We regress, and then we get into the loop of the cycle. And we can't get out of the loop because we entered into the new experience based off of a distorted desire and a cycle that was mental versus physical.
Yeah. 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 I so get that. I so get that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's so interesting for us, you know, generator builder types and manifesting generator express builder types, is because we have all this energy, right? It wants to go somewhere. It wants to do something. And so when we're not used to what to do with that energy. And the mind is like, oh, well, I'll help you do something with that energy.
That's right.
And that hunger and that, you know, let me tell you what to do there. And I see my clients struggle with this. And I have some, here's another piece about these cycles. And even if you don't, by the way, those of you who are listening to this and you're like, well, I don't have that one. What about me?
Right.
Hey, guess what? We all have all of it. You do have cycles in your life. You probably, you know, you have one or the other of the traits, the 53 or the 42 there. Maybe you have all of it, maybe you have none of it, but we are all influenced by these in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, it still applies to you. And we cannot force an ending. That's the other thing, is like, we can't, when we're trying to force an ending, it's usually the mind that's like, this is really uncomfortable and I don't like it. You know, when I think about even in a day, I love the morning. It is my favorite time of day. It's like, I love to get up early. Yes, I know, my coffee. I'm just like I want to get up. I love to get up before anyone else is up, because then I am responding to what I'm responding to. There's nobody else. It's quiet. Like I get to respond to my connection to myself and to spirit, to God, to the universe. And before anyone else is calling for my energy. And I love that. And then it's like a new day. Like, what is it? One of my bags has a coffee cup on it. It says, I love the smell of possibility in the morning. Like, I am addicted to the smell of possibility in the morning. And it has to do also with my coffee. And so I'm like, let's fuel up for this beautiful day. And what's interesting is at the end of the day, if I have had a day where I am just deeply satisfied, I've done what I love what I do, I am just in it. I might be exhausted, whatever. I've served my clients well. I love to make money. I love my work.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love to paint.
Yeah.
And when I come to the end of the day and I've done that, my head hits that pillow and it feels amazing. But if I have had a day where I didn't, like something didn't work and I was trying for my mind to figure it all out or get something done.
Right. Yeah.
Force an ending. By the time when dusk falls, I feel depressed. I feel sad. I feel like, and I hate the night, I'm just like, no, and I'll want to stay up late to extend things. So what do you, I hear you going, like, how does that? Yeah. Just a couple generators here.
So again, like our sacral energy is like our battery, right?
Yes.
So being 70% of the population, you and I are designed to have our energy requested.
Yes.
Period. We have open and enveloping auras. We are open to other people asking us for our energy. And then we get to respond. Is this correct? Is it not correct? That's what that's all about. And if we're depleting our batteries incorrectly, the battery life is not very long. Meaning, like take a look at your cell phone. If we abuse our cell phones or our laptops and we don't recharge those lithium batteries correctly, the battery life, isn't very good. All of a sudden we could get 10 hours a day and all of a sudden, now we can only get 2 hours a day and we got to plug back in, right?
Yep.
So it's about how are we using that battery, and it's about having that energy requested from us. Yeah. And not only from other people, but like you say, that connection, that repairing that we do with source. When we let this frequency live through us, we are repairing. We are pairing up again with our source frequency. And when we can do that, all of a sudden the battery is being used correctly because the request is happening from the universe, it's happening from other people, and then we just get to respond. We just get to navigate, move, allow for the beauty of this physical body to really just dance and interact and, do what it needs to do. And that's the application piece. You and I can study, and we did, and we still do. Like, if people were to walk in my office, they would shake their heads, right?
I know. I hear you.
Because there's like, I have probably 50 different manuals right now, source material from Raw, all over, right? Yeah. And I pull stuff out of there. And I can study it. And then when I apply it to the world or see it applied in the world, it's like, it's so freaking profound, right? Yes. Like this system is like, I know. If I could eat it, I would.
I know, like, totally.
Right?
It's so deeply satisfying.
So deeply satisfying.
Oh, I so get that. That's so funny that you say that, because I'm the same way. I'm like, I just want to eat it. Like it just, I want to take it in to every cell of my being, because it nourishes every cell of my being. Not the information, just because it activates. So I call this like the activation, right? It activates the truth in our design, the truth in our frequency, and it starts to wake us up to the higher frequency. So, for those of you who are brand new to design, right, our design doesn't change, right? Our body graph doesn't change from, the original when we were born,
right? But
the frequency of it can change and does change. And that is that's the part of the evolutionary process. And you said something I think is really important, and this is really the inspiration in a lot of ways for this builder revolution, is that we're 70% of the population. And so how we generate our builder types use our sacral energy literally fuels the world. When we look out at the world, we see how many people are frustrated out there. That has to do with us. That is big part because we are operating, frankly, as slaves to our mind and as slaves to the constructs and the collective, like this is how you run a corporation and this is how you run and this is what you're supposed to do and you're supposed to work hard and blah, 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 and the more we start to wake up and use that sacral energy correctly, it's interesting how talking about the Builder Revolution, it started because I was at a retreat with a group of advisors or projectors, non-sacral beings. And my intention in that weekend-long retreat was to simply template for them what it's like to be with a generator builder type who is using her energy correctly.
Yeah.
Is in alignment. That was it. That was my only intention.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, it was the most profound experience that I have had, because that deep, deep, deep sense of satisfaction was a full body ecstatic experience. And I know what that feels like now. It is incredible. Like, there is no drug, and I've done a few, there's no drug that is more intoxicating and awesome and clean and high frequency than that experience. And I asked myself, I was like, how can I really support more advisors and the non-sacral beings in the world? How could I really do that? And it just dropped in. It was like, teach the generator types how to use this energy correctly.
Yes.
Teach everyone, revolutionize the way, have people step out of the way that we've been conditioned to use this energy. Because we have so many people out there that are just frustrated. And guess who's amplifying that? The advisors, the manifestors or innovators, and our beautiful reflector, evaluator friends. We're just like, people, come on.
Exactly. You're bang on there. And we have to get there. Like, it is, well, I guess we don't have to do anything. That's just my mental, that's my mental process, wanting to force this. But the beauty of, when you talk about the third gate behind you, right? The third gate sits in the sacral, right? And it's all about ordering. So, when we just, when we say we want to clean a room in our house, what do? We take all the stuff out and we make chaos in order to come back to order. Right? When you go to build a house, there's shit everywhere.
Believe me, we are remodeling our house. It's a shit show.
And that's what your husband does for a living, right? So you take all this garbage and all of these materials and all of this energy and all of everything, and then you put it into order. So when we can do that as generators, when we can actually live correctly, right? Then the chaos feels a little more less chaotic and a little more, innovative and structured. But it has to start within, right? It has to start within.
Yes. And also what's so interesting about this is that, when we look at what it takes to do that. So I sometimes will bring in, or oftentimes, especially in the artwork that I do, bring in the gene keys. And I know you and I have talked about the gene keys, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, about how they fit together for you and I, something that we see that a lot of people kind of get spun up in around it. But for the moment, right, it has the shadow, the gift, and the city being the highest frequency of each of the traits or gates, or the gene keys, so to speak. And in trait 3, it's innocence is the city. It's the highest one. And the thing about this is it's all about play. It's about being influenced by one another. And that is chaotic. I think about my daughter, who's 11, and just recently, like I would say in the last year and a half, when she really started to play more games on her iPad and stuff like that. But prior to that, it was always like, I'd listen to her and her friends play, and they'd be like, pretend that, blah, 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 blah. And then the other one would play off of that, pretend that this, and then they would just build an entire world through their imagination and playing. But it was because they were innocent enough not to, it was like improv. It is improv. They're just, innovating and improvising. But that takes a level of receptivity, of innocence, of willingness to be in the chaos without trying to figure it out, and just responding and going with it. And which has been really fucking hard for me, because this is my conscious earth, right? So this is my grounding. This is where and so this painting or this
Very
creation
good.
behind me was so much of like just playing and throwing paint on there's paint all over my wall because I was just like playing and letting myself collaborate, not thinking I have to do it all by myself, not being the one who had to be the expert, not being the one who was just like, I'm going to be the thought leader.
Right.
And I'm going to, because in the past I was like that, I was just like so attached to that. And yet the more I play and the more I collaborate and the more I'm like, hey, let's play in this field. I don't have all the answers to this. Let's collaborate and innovate something new. Everything in my life and business has changed. Everything in my relationships has changed. It's like, and this is the practice. This is the art of coming into alignment with the design. It is not a mental exercise.
Nope.
And so speaking of mental exercises, I love the Gene Keys. I bring them in. I love the contemplative practice of it. I love the energy of them. And it's very heady. So let's hear your perspective. I'd love to hear your perspective on it and how, tell us a little bit about that.
I know of the Gene Keys. I've looked through them. My focus right now is human design. And the reason being is because when I listen to Ross speak, a lot of his material starting 30 years ago, up until he passed away, I have this sense that, and this is not a negative, this is just my observation and my objectivity of it, that the students that he was teaching were not ready for the deeper aspects.
Yeah.
Right? So when I listen to him, I can hear the information in the gap.
Yes.
I can sense it. I can sense the encryption. I love this book.
You and I both have don't you have the 3457 also? Do you have that too?
I don't have the 57. I just have the 34.
Okay, got it. Go ahead.
So, this encryption that's inside of here really will lead you to your gene key. It will, without even having to know gene keys or verbalize gene keys. Exactly. But what happens is that human beings get stuck in searching. I still haven't found it. I still haven't found it. I still haven't found it. So we're constantly searching for systems, and we never allow for the timing of the system to permeate ourselves. And human design, we have to have time. This is a process. There is no quick fix. When you enter into human design, if you think you're going to get a quick fix and you're going to have a session and then next day you're going to be rich or you're going to, have the best relationships in the world, that's not how this works. This is a process because, when you talk about the frequency, right? So that body graph, the innocence of that little baby coming in, that was the highest aspect really of that frequency, right? It's this beautiful frequency. And then I don't think that the frequency changes. I think that the murkiness of our environment changes. And because of that, the frequency gets dumbed down or toned down because people are scared, right? Other people are scared of the power that lies within each other being.
Yeah.
Right? So once we can get out of the way and once we can recognize that it's the environment dumbing down our frequency based off of that conditioning, then that frequency can shine.
Yeah.
So, instead, what I recommend to my clients, quit searching.
Yeah.
Quit searching. The minute that you can drop into your own strategy and authority and declutter the mind, there is no fucking system out there that will ever replace that repairing with source, right? There just isn't. We can write books, you and I can coach people, we can do podcasts, we can do all of that. But if it's on the mental plane, if the psychology piece of it is keeping you confined into the psychology piece of it, and you can never actually navigate with the body, and you can never repair yourself with source energy, you could read a gazillion books, you can search for 1,000 different systems, none of it's going to matter.
Exactly.
right? None of
It's
it's
how
gonna
you
matter.
approach it. It's how you
Yeah.
approach it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I so get that. And it's interesting because one of the things that I love about design is that it's just a map of our energy, right? It's a map of that
Yeah.
frequency and those
Yeah.
energies that we were born with, that is natural to us, that is just our unique imprint in the world, our unique expression of that energetic frequency. And yet, what's really cool about that is like, that sounds a little woo woo, like, oh, there's all the, like it's energy and all that. And which we know is just woo woo, whatever. Nothing's woo woo anymore. It's
No.
like, let's just let go of that stupid term. Anyway, but there's a logic to it. And this is what I love about design, is it actually doesn't require us to believe anything
No.
or even understand anything. However, when we are learning something, when our logical mind, as soon as we can give it some information, like via the body graph, via human design, it helps the logical mind to kind of shut up. It relaxes it. And so then we can speak to both the heart and soul and the mind. So it's not about, like, it's about working with the mind and giving it the kind of nutrition that it requires to stand down.
That's right.
And so for me, when I look at the gene keys, which is a more contemplative practice, it is more esoteric than than human design. When I see people who are just doing gene keys and they don't understand where it came from human design. It started, he studied with Ra. It's based in human design. And when you start to understand the science of the human design, it's like, oh, that good. So I do both, and because I love both of them, but it is my foundation in the science of human design that allows me to dive into the gene keys at a deeper level and to understand why and how these go together. Is it a requirement for alignment to understand all of it? No, it isn't. The only thing we need to quote unquote understand or be true to is our decision-making strategy. For those of us who are generator types, it's wait to respond, right? You talked about it earlier. It's like, we have all this energy available, available for request, available for request from the universe, from our family members, from our work, from our computer. I mean, just whatever it is, like it's for, our request or to be requested, and to trust our sacral, if we are a sacral being like myself, or our emotional clarity. And you're an emotional clarity person, right?
Nope.
So no, you're not. You're sacral.
I'm just
that's
sacral.
Right.
Yeah.
So you and I are just like or
Yep.
I mean,
Totally.
It's and when we follow that, and I had somebody ask me about this recently. He was like, I've done all this stuff around, I've studied everything. I've studied all these systems and everything. And and I've studied human design. He's studied human design with, as far as I understand, people that are not BG5 trained, possibly not even IHDS trained. I'm not sure. And so, and he's like, I've studied all this stuff, and you're saying it comes down to your decision-making strategy. So why would I study all this stuff if it just comes down to understanding my decision-making strategy? I'm like, exactly. You don't need to study all this stuff. Just nail your decision-making strategy. You do that, you fucking just let the other shit go, right? However, most people don't even know what that means, to wait to respond, or wait for an invitation, or inform before you act, or to wait to be initiated. Like, most people don't even understand what that is, let alone understand how their authority works, because we're so conditioned to listen to everybody else and our mind. So our map, our human design, is just a map to show us how to unlock our genius.
Yes.
And if we look at it and go, well, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this, it's like, no. Those are just little prongs on your key that will allow you, they're just all the little ridges on the key that unlock the genius of you.
Yes.
You don't know, it's more just like, oh, there's that little piece where I get the hitch in my giddy up, where I always, in my
Yeah.
undefined willpower. Oh, there it is again.
Yes.
There's that shadow that
Yeah.
keeps me from listening to my sacral. That's all.
Yeah.
That's like, if we just keep it very simple, and
Yeah.
everybody wants to fucking, it's like a circle jerk out there. Like, how much
Yes.
information do I know
Yeah.
about humans,
Yeah.
you know? And I get there too. Like, I love it. I'm a 5-1, that first line. You're
Right.
1-3. The
Yeah.
first line, we're
Yeah.
like, no, you're 3-5.
No,
What are we?
1-3.
1-3. That's
1-3.
right.
Yep.
I see so many designs in my head.
I know.
And so that first line, right? We are researchers. We want to know the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
We're just like, show me,
Well,
show me.
and you know, let's just pull it up again just
Yeah.
to play. You and I both have 8 first lines.
Yeah.
So, you know,
all the first lines.
You know, here's
Love
yours.
Our information.
Yeah, totally love our information, and there's mine. So,
Yeah,
you know,
8 first lines.
and you're totally right. I'm not telling people, you know, and I would never say this, don't study, don't gather information. That's because we are in information soup, right? That we are in the neutrino ocean. And the neutrino ocean, all that is just little packets of information flowing through our openness when we allow it to, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying don't gather information. I'm just saying do not allow for the mind to then create a construct and force its agenda.
Yeah.
You know, oh, I have to, you know, be innocent here in the third, you know, city of, you know, the third hexagram. No, you get to play around with all levels. You know, there's 6 lines in the hexagram.
Yes.
So what are the potentials here? You know, there's 9 different potentials there with the 3 cities, the 6 hexagrams. When you have it, you get to witness all of it, right? It's not, I don't know how to, don't pigeonhole yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Don't pigeonhole yourself. Well, this is what it says. This is what the book says. So I have to. No, it's about experience the whole plethora of it and then recognize the correctness for yourself.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Because we can take all kinds, like look at Newtonian physics, like drove us for how many years? And we actually live in a quantum physics world.
Right.
So here we are again trying to pigeonhole ourselves into this, and it's you know, it wasn't correct. And now quantum physics is there, and they're like, whoa, look at all these possibilities. Like you and I can actually create the quantum right in front of us. We are a quantum. You know, the human design body graph shows that. The design side, the personality side being brought into this body graph. All of a sudden, you know, the new recognition of the logical piece of it, right? What blew everything away. And, you know, something Ra always said was, it doesn't matter. Like all the data, all the science, all the theory always gets blown to smithereens because you have a human experimenting with it. Right? You have a human having this experience and they're on totally 2 different sides of the body graph.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and something I always say is that, you know, the fourth hexagram, right? The 4th line, the 4th line of the 4th hexagram is the liar.
Right.
So no matter how much data theory has, when it externalizes, it's, you know, the actor, role playing as an art form, the actor, it's the liar. There's never anything solid in logic because human beings are experiencing their lives.
So we're highly subjective.
Highly, right?
Highly. So, as logical as it sounds, like, you know, a lie can be one of the most logical things you've ever heard in your entire life.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, we're addicted to it. We're addicted to the logic because our mind likes it. Our mind likes order and logic. And that's what you're saying. It's like, so, and we inherently will speak to that and we'll inherently share that. And that, I don't know about you. Do you have people that come to you who go, well, I read this about my design and it sucks and I hate it. And I
Yes.
look at, and I go, well, where did you, kind of, where did you learn that? Where did you read that? And they go, well, I heard it from this person. I'm like, well, number one, that's not even true. Or number two, I'm really sorry that you had that experience. It's only part of the story. Because the thing is, again, with human design, the beauty of it is how specific we can get. Yep. Every single one, however many people there are on the planet and ever have been on the planet and ever will be on the planet, that's how many different designs there are. Unlike, Myers-Briggs or some other like system that is put together on a bell curve norm. This is an N of one, right? Where everything else is sort of like, what's the degree of error, 0.01. What's the degree of error that you're going to be this type of this versus this? No, if you have your accurate information, this is it, right? Yes. And so when we are learning and we're starting to learn, we're like, oh, well, this is what it means to be, a generator type, or this is what it means to be, a projector advisor type. And therefore, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, yes. And there's other aspects happening in your body graph. Let's really look at you, and there is, and I think that there's a real danger when somebody is learning and they're learning this stuff and they're either, I'm seeing it. I'm actually looking on Instagram a lot because I'm creating, like revamping my Instagram because I am admittedly social media phobic and, or like, I just have not paid attention to it. Like I just,
me too.
And I'm like, no, I'm looking at what's out there and I'm like, where did you get that? And I just see everybody parroting each other. It's like the mainstream media mockingbird shit.
Yes.
Like everybody's just parroting because they read it from someone who didn't know the original source. And then they're just like, oh, that sounds good. And then they're writing and they're creating all these memes and everybody's loving it. And I'm like, that's really great that you're loving it. And at first it pissed me off and I just get super, righteous about it and go, oh my God, like, for those of us who've been studying it for years and we look at it and go, oh my God, now I actually have a gratitude because I look at it and I go, number one, go for it, just because eventually the people that really, really want to understand and get it and grasp it and use it and make it practical and truly understand themselves will eventually find, if they're in our fractal, if they're in mine or in yours, they will find us and they can find out what's really going on there. That will really truly empower them and help them get out of that mind place and into a sense of freedom and liberation through the design, not in spite of it, through it.
Exactly.
There was my rant. That was my little soapbox moment.
So here's what I'm going to play around with what you just said. Okay.
Let's look at it.
So there is nothing that lives on its own. Exactly. So I could talk to you, about, your 50.5, right? And then we could talk about the color, the tone, the base. We could do all that, right? I could pigeonhole you down into, very deep information.
Yeah.
But how does it play out in the holistic view, okay, of the genetics? And then, well, look at this. We have all these epigenetics. Mm-hmm. Anything that's open is the epigenetics, right? Mm-hmm. So how I look at that is the definition is our DNA, RNA. That's our signature. Here it is. Mm-hmm. But within our strand of DNA, we have 98% junk.
Well, quote unquote junk, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't look at it as junk. I look at it, that's our epigenetics. That's our experiences.
Our potentials.
So, yeah. And, Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and all these guys, we don't get sick from our genetics. We get sick from the environment. So it's about allowing for those experiences to flow through us so that our expression can be clean and crisp and pure, because I interact with you because of what you bring to me.
Mm-hmm. And likewise.
Right? Exactly. And we're in this environment, and if we can just let all of the stuff just flow through us, let the information, let the neutrino stream flow through us, then the holistic view of this interaction can come to light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, so you and I both get to play around with, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that want to continue on the mental plane will continue on the mental plane.
Yeah.
You know, and for the most part, you know, it's about making money.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, one of the most beautiful quotes that Ra has ever said is, the true self doesn't give a fuck about making money.
Mm-hmm.
It's the not self that wants to make money. And you and I knowing this, we are BG5 business professionals.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we make money through our experiences and through our openness. However, we have to be correct. This isn't a mental game.
Yeah.
You know, you and I are going to meet people where they are the most needy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, the most wanty, right? They want all this stuff, right?
Exactly.
But we provide to them and we deliver to them exactly what they deserve and exactly what they require to live the best life.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sometimes you and I, like, you know, our information isn't, how would I say this? We're not speaking to the mental plane sometimes.
No,
you and I are speaking to that true self and to that, you know, let's get you to that correctness. And there's a meme, again, on Facebook or Instagram that shows, you know, people that want to know the future, the fortune teller. Their lineup is, you know, out the door. And then on the other side, there's the medium who wants to, you know, reconstitute the past and connect with people. And then in the middle, there's this person going, hey, you know, presence. Let's be present in the now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nobody standing in that lineup. People are so fucking scared to be with themselves.
Yeah.
And you and I are teaching that. You and I are teaching revolution and mastery through that pure presence in that moment.
Yes.
This isn't about making money. This isn't about fuck all. This isn't about nothing outside of your skin. This is about inside your skin back.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly. And the irony or something about that is that as soon as you get that, the money or the energy or the resources show up.
Exactly.
But everybody is like, here, this is how you do it, and this is how you do it, and it's taken me a while, even studying all this, right? The profit potential coaching, like you and I have been teaching the classes and watching, and everybody's in their head, and I was super in my head and about it even myself. And when I'm with my clients and I'm just like I'm looking at the science, I see all the patterns, and then I'm channeling the highest frequency that I can see through my intuition, through the art of it. And a lot of times they're like, how do I do that? I'm like, well, you know, being a 5-1, I'm like, here's very practical. Like, okay, it looks like this. It looks like this. It looks like this.
Yeah.
But even then, they have to be present enough and practice it over time to implement and be present and trust themselves over and over again. I'm just like, look, this is what I see, that based on all of it, but ultimately you're the expert and you trust yourself. And when I watch my clients, when they just have a one-off session and they are like, okay, I got it. And some of them are really able, like if they've been working on themselves or kind of, you know what I mean? Like they're pretty conscious. They can go and implement 1 or 2 things and everything changes. Like it literally does, you know, or in their relationships, have 1 session and everything changes just by understanding the mechanics of the design. I have seen that.
Yes.
And then there's others, right, where it's like they want the answer so badly that when they hear the answer, they cannot receive the answer.
That's exactly.
Because they're not all the things that are not letting the key go in. It's like there's like crustiness in the or like you and I both live in an area where that gets cold. So when it's cold and your lock and maybe some moisture got in the key and ice, and you can't lock it, you have to melt that before the key will actually go in there and deactivate and the locking mechanism and allow the thing to open. So we got to warm that up. We got to heat that up. We got to get it to where it's like all that stuff starts to melt away. And that's what takes time.
Right.
And nobody, you just said it, nobody wants it. They just want to know what's the quick fix in the future. And here's what's so interesting. I remember when I first started studying design and reading about it and really diving into it, I remember reading somewhere it said, you know, it takes about 7 years. The deconditioning process takes about 7 years, you know? And I was like, I don't have 7 years. I don't want to take 7 years. I'm going to fast track that. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make it happen faster. You know, I was hell bent on that. I was like, oh no, I like things fast. Let's go.
Yep.
Over 7 years later, I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. Integration. I was talking about this with a client yesterday, and a friend yesterday who is a 1-4. And she just is like she's, you know, about a year into her experiment with human design and studying at BG5 too. And she's like, I'm just really trying to get this. And I said, integration is not a mental experience. Integration is a cellular, energetic thing that happens when you're not fucking looking for it.
Yes.
And she was like, oh. And I said, yes, I know. I want to fast track it too, but I'll tell you what, these 7+ years flew by.
Yep.
Flew by. And I do feel like a very different person. Very different person. I don't recognize myself in some ways.
Nope. I totally get that. I totally get that. Yeah. And you're totally right. Like, you know, because, you know, Ross said the 7 years because most of our cells in our body have regenerated. Well, why is it a cellular process? Because when you're allowing for strategy and authority to guide the life instead of the mental plane, after 7 years, you know, at 3.5, you know, he said there's going to be a little shift. That's why at the International Human Design School, it's a 3.5-year process to get your analyst degree. Because if you're teaching before 3.5 years, if you're coaching people, you're not there yourself. So you're just spewing out garbage.
Yep.
So at
which is what we see a lot of right now.
Exactly.
Not everywhere.
Right. So, you know, you have that, you know, that base of that cellular regeneration happening. And then at 7 years, you're right. I felt the exact same thing. It was like, it was literally, like you say, a switch. All of a sudden it went, oh, even though, you know, I had felt it for 3.5 years after that 3.5-year process, right? But there's still this level of, I'm just not quite there. Yep. And when that 7 year, you're totally right. It's like, holy man, surrendering at a new level.
Yes. Yeah.
Witnessing at a whole new level, you know, trusting at a whole new level. And then, you know, what I loved is that when you said, you know, just a few minutes ago, you know, when people get the answer, well, when we look again at formulation is in the 4th gate. You know, I bang on this 4th gate all the time because it's hilarious to me. Formulation's in the 4th gate, which is collective. There's collective answers, but the 61st gate, that's inner truth.
Yep.
So answers and truth are totally fucking different.
Yes.
Answers and truth are totally different. You and I can spew out all the answers in the world, right? Yep. Everybody can spew out all these answers. Has fuck all to do with your individual truth. Yeah. And how you're going to use that truth to come to your own breakthrough and be able to, you know, be that inspired being who is here to absolutely stand in their purpose, to integrate their spirit with this meat suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So truth and answers, totally different, totally differently.
I love that. I love that. And one of the things that you've pointed out, and I love this, is that trait 61 is active for all of us in the collective for a while. It has been for a while, and it will continue to be. So that's what's happening in a large part right now in the collective for all of us, is really sorting out our own inner truth and the truth of what is happening in the world.
Yep. Yep.
And
do you want me to pop that up, Chris?
Yeah. Let's do that. This is going to be one of our longer episodes. We're going to totally geek out. While you're pulling that up, I just want to, I want to say a couple things. Number one is if you are interested in studying some of the science behind it and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to do some consulting or that, you can join us at the BG5 Business Institute. I will be teaching a foundations course starting in June 30th, 2020. So you can join us for that. And I'll put a link below for that. And Leann has a very robust program. Is it a self-study program, or how are you doing that?
So basically, it's a marrying of the two. So my 7 years of information that I'm compiling, I am compiling an online module piece of it where people can go in, they can learn the mechanics of it. I simplify it. I break it all down into very simplistic, understandable terms, and then it's weekly coaching. Where, we, again, like you say, so there is the structure and then there's the application.
Exactly.
And for you and I as coaches, it's the application piece. Like I could teach this stuff all day long, but if nobody's applying it, we're not making the adjustment in the planet, period.
Exactly.
So it's the application, and you call it the art, right? So if we're not in that application piece, we're nowhere. We are just, continuing to make noise on the mental plane, period.
Exactly. So I will put a link to that also in the show notes if you would like to study the science and some of the art of it as well with Leann and her program. Again, there's the foundation course if you just want to take the foundation course. And I always tell stories when I'm teaching that stuff anyway as well. And then I'll tell you a little bit more about the Builder Revolution in a few minutes. Let's look at, we're really going to geek out here for a minute. Leann, show us where we are. We're on my body graph, and let's go for it.
So again, mybodygraph.com, Jovian Archive, IHDS school.com, and, the BG5 Business Institute.com. These are all Ra's, original teachings. So when you're a part of these four networks, you are Ra's legacy. So I'm Ra's legacy, Chris is Ra's legacy, and we get to represent his profound information. So on mybodygraph.com, so this is today's universal chart. So how I see the transiting program is that the transiting program is here to empower us. It's here to share its wisdom with us, and it is also here to support us. So once the 7-year, deconditioning or realization or awakening, or however you want to say that, happens, the transits aren't here to condition us per se, okay? They're here to influence us with power, empowering, sharing.
Activate us,
That's right. Well, to help us with the evolution, okay? So I look at this as a very, very profound movie that we all get to be conscious of. So you and I are just chatting about Pluto in the 61st gate. So Pluto has been in the 61st gate since October 24th of 2019.
The day after my birthday.
There you go. And the 61st gate is all about that inner truth, that ability for us to drop into our own inner truth. It's the gate of mystery. Now, kind of going to a larger level here, in the global orchestrated directory of this cross of planning that you and I are currently in, and the whole world is currently in, the 61st gate was also there. So for 416 years, the higher arcing energy has been, what is your own inner truth? Okay, so Pluto is basically supporting us until we're talking a very long time. So it pops into the 60. Hopefully I don't lose you, Chris. Okay, it pops into the 60, May 15th of 2021. However, Pluto always goes back and forth. It's like this cleaning cloth that, cleans out all the garbage. Then it pops back into the 61st gate on June 10th of 2021.
So it kind of is going back and forth between the two, between
the
60 and
60 and the
61.
61, which
Mm-hmm.
again is all very individual. It's all
Mm-hmm.
very, inner truth, dropping into our own transcendence, because that's really what gate 60 is. It's the limitation, but it's the transcendence of that limitation. How do we transcend?
Yep.
By coming to our own inner truth.
Yes.
And Pluto is all
We
about,
mutate. Yep.
that's right. And Pluto's all about truth and transformation. So, it really is there supporting us back and forth until January 14th of 2022. That's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time for us to be waking up. And what's interesting too, just to note for everybody, and let's keep this up for a minute, but the chart here, but the cross of planning of the 400 some plus years that we've been in is coming to an end. And we are in the last 7-year cycle before 2027, when we move into the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And when we move into more from planning, which is all about sort of the larger structures and the collective, if you will, and everybody kind of dumbing down to the lowest common denominator, if you will. A lot of beautiful things have come out of this cross of planning, but we're moving into the cross of the individual and our own individual knowing. And so look at Pluto is like, here's connect in with your inner truth and mutate and connect in and mutate and connect in. And so it's like, here's the truth. How are you going to change with that? Okay, here's the truth. How are you going to change with that? And this is happening for all of us right now. That's why so much of what we're seeing out there is breaking down right now. And you're either freaking out about it, looking at everything that we're experiencing right now in the world and going, oh my God, it's Armageddon, or the apocalypse, which, by the way, apocalypse actually is a good thing. It's a very positive word. It's sort of like, things as transformation. And so and you're fearful, or you're looking at it and going, wow, this is cool. This is exactly what is required for the old system to break down and this new frequency to emerge. It's already emerging. So really, you said something earlier, and this kind of goes back to like the builder revolution and everything, all the work that we do. And when we're working with our clients and everything, is like, nobody needs this stuff. It's happening whether we're aware of it or not.
Yes, totally.
That said, like, and again, even with builder revolution or even learning all of this, is that what we're doing is we're templating the frequency, because it's like, I see it like this. It's sort of like a pole that is in the ground. And let's say there's a tornado coming and it's all like chaos and distortion and everything. It's like, hold on to that pole so you don't fly off, right? And so many of us are just trying to hold on to something that will, allow us to be grounded. Now, many of us who have been doing this work for a while and who can see the program, we're like, okay, it's cool. Like, I'm going to stay right here and hold the pole. And what we're doing is we're templating an energy for the chaos to calm down, for there to be some peace, for people to actually go, oh, there is a calm in the storm. There is that. And that's what we're called to do. That's what we are able to do, again, through our work, through our design, through working with it and living and embodying it in a healthy way. We template a frequency of where we're going. And we can guide people and just hold that frequency through this chaos, through this transformation and transition that's happening, whether we like it or not, whether we understand it or not, or whether we want it to or not. And that's part of the surrender. Is there anything you would add to that?
Like really, that's, we are in this program, right? We are in this program. So is there a limitation? Yes. The limitation is your design, but the limitation is also, the daily transits, the larger program, like the levels of limitation do not end. Now, how do you surrender to that? And how do you come to this place of order? Well, by trusting the design and knowing that all of this shit is happening. Like Chris said, we can't control any of it. We sure want to, but we're not designed to do that. We're designed to just surrender to our frequency. So, one of the lines that I love as well, because again, I love the encryption of the design, right? I love it. So in the 36th hexagram, the 36th hexagram is a gate of crisis. It's not here in the, globally right now, right? But the gate of crisis is all about the darkening of the light. And when we look at the sixth line is kind of the, here we are, we're on the horizon, and we're looking out at the shore, and we're not really, we're aloof, we're kind of just hanging out, we're there. Okay, so here's the sixth line. The sixth line is justice. I know this very well because it's a part of my design as well, but it is the inevitable survival of right. The knowledge and attendant faith that the powers of darkness eventually destroy themselves. Those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. The correctness of crisis when it arises out of pure feeling. So, here's what I take from that, okay? There is absolute fucking madness in our world right now.
Yeah, totally. Amen, sister. Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't matter, truth or community, mainstream media, right? Whatever, everybody, including myself, I get caught up in it as well. Okay. And it's like, oh, this is happening outside of me. But you know what I came to the very, very deep realization is that none of that bullshit out there is my experience. My experience is this. My life has not changed. I've made more money being correct in this crisis than I have in a very long time. When I go to the grocery store, there's always a plethora of food. Like there's literally produce falling on the floor in front of me. Any stores that I go to, they have not moved over to being a communist country or a fascist country, right? My experience is nothing like what is being spewed out on my computer screen. So the realization in all of this is that, whoa, human design is that profound. The closer I am, well, I guess I shouldn't say the closer. The more I get out of the fucking way and allow for that frequency to flow, my experience has absolutely, like, it isn't the collective's experience.
Yeah, it's like we're in two different worlds.
Yep. Yeah. Because when you and I hold on to that and allow for that to happen through us, we are progressing. And we are helping the collective progress. Yeah. But when all the garbage is being spewed out there and the noise, that collective desire will then regress the collective because there's no pairing with self. And it's clear. There's going to be justice. These crazy, mad assholes that are running around in the world that they serve their purpose.
Yeah.
The cross of planning is coming to a close. We built this beautiful Maya. We have all of this gorgeous infrastructure, right? We have this unbelievable, connection system. And it served its purpose and it's coming to a close.
Yeah.
So they are going to go mad because they're not awake and aware enough to know that their time is done.
Yeah.
So I think for 7 years, it's going to be like total, like your painting behind you, total fucking chaos.
Yeah.
But
do you think it's total? Well, it'll be total chaos because the foundations of what we need to rebuild foundations, like even in our house that we're remodeling, we bought this house and the only room that's working right now is my studio office, and everything else is gutted. Like the whole house is gutted. Oh God, it's crazy. It's a total mess. But the foundation, like we're looking at it and going, oh my God, this house is, that the previous owner added on to it, not to code. Like there's places where you're like, oh my God, there's no foundation there, So we're going to literally rebuild the foundation of this house. And that's what's happening right now. The foundations of this is the first year of that 7-year cycle, right? You could
Mm-hmm.
kind of think of it like that. We're in the first year of dismantling the foundations. There's going to be more dismantling. It's going to take a
Yes.
while.
Yep.
But the more, and what I hear you saying, and this has also been my experience, is that the more in alignment we are with our design and how it really truly operates, for lack of a better way of saying it, the easier it is. Like, we're literally experiencing this dismantling and restructuring from a totally different perspective.
Yes.
And not better than or anything like
Nope.
that. It has nothing to do with that. We
Nope.
still have compassion and love for everyone and humanity and everything, because we're all in it together. This is not about us and them at all in any way, shape, or form. This is about all of us. It's just seeing it in a totally different way and experiencing a different way. I know the same thing. I have clients purchasing. I have sales happening. I have, like, it's, my life in many, many ways has not changed. And I say that, there's a little bit of that survivor, complex, a little bit of that guilt complex, but it's sort of like, that has nothing to do with me and who I am. And it says nothing about anyone else and their worthiness or deservedness or any of that shit. It has nothing to do with that. And there's no judgment here. There's no well, you're doing it right and you're doing it wrong. That's not correct either. Right? There is simply, it's allowing us to see and giving us a map for what it looks like when we're in alignment, not just with ourselves, but with the program.
Yep.
Exactly. Like with the energy that's moving, the way source and God, the universe, is working through all of this. Beyond what we can imagine with our human little mind,
Exactly. And that's exactly, what it is brought to me is the profound beauty that is human design and is the frequency. You're right. I'm not judging. It's an observation because that's what human design is allowing us. And, I'm totally grateful for the awareness of understanding the global orchestrated directory. And I'm totally grateful for being able to see the transiting program, because, guaranteed, if I didn't know that, doesn't matter how spiritual you are, there's going to be that mental aspect that we get caught up in. So, it's an awareness. I have the information. I can be aware of how it's playing out, and I can watch the movie based off of my perception, based off of my frequency. And there's no judgment. There's no judgment on that. There's no, I'm doing it better than you, like you say, has absolutely fuck all to do with that. It just has to do with the fact that, there it is. It's profound. Period.
And that's,
and I don't have to get in the way. I don't have to try to control it.
I know, right? That for me, when you're talking about that, like, I just keep coming back to it, and maybe because it's a big part of my design, it's just a sense of peace, like peace, peace, which is trait 6, and that, and it's like, I can take a deep breath, and I can trust myself. I can trust the way I make decisions. I can trust that everything's going to be okay. That no matter what is happening, no matter how much destruction happens, no matter how much chaos happens, no matter that, ultimately we're going to be all right. And that this is just part of it. We've gone through this before in humanity many, many times, and we will go through it again many, many times. And we got this, and it's going to be all right. And and
going back to the cycles, right, Chris? Here we are. We're coming to a close of a global orchestrated directory cycle, period. And it feels uncomfortable because there is this new beginning, and there isn't one human being on the planet that has been in that cycle of the cross of the sleeping phoenix and the cross of penetration together. So there is no fortune teller. Our physical bodies just have to step in. We have to put our toe into that water on the horizon and just surrender to, it's fresh, it's new. Take a breath, right? Like breathe it in and allow for this beauty to unfold through us, not to us.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for saying that. And that actually feels like a beautiful end close to the cycle of this podcast. I could talk to you all damn day. You know that. We could do this forever. And I would love to have you back. We'll do that again. One of the things that I do want to let folks know, so the Builder Revolution is coming. It is here. It is beginning. One of the beautiful things that I'm going to have is Leann is going to be one of my guest experts that's going to come in there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about health and the design, and do a workshop in the Builder Revolution around really nourishing our bodies as generators and manifesting generator types. So join us in the Builder Revolution if you are interested in knowing more about that. And once again, the power, tell us a little bit how people can find you. And I will put the link to your program and in the show notes, but just say it again. How could we find you?
So www.powerofself.ca. And, I still do individual sessions. And my main focus right now is building out my self-mastery movement. And, Chris, your Builder Revolution and the self-mastery movement, they go hand in hand with each other to allow for, this real deep understanding. And as you can tell, Chris and I have totally different frequencies. So, you're going to get from Chris what you need, you're going to get from me what you need. And, if neither one of us do it for you, great. Find a teacher that does, because, find a coach that does. And I am so grateful for our conversations. You pull out a lot of depth out of me, and you bring me a deeper sense of the psychology piece based off of your training as well. I love your artwork that's behind you. And that's something that Chris has shared with me is allowing for your design, anybody's design, to speak through her in art. And that's, when Chris and I, just prior to this podcast, we were chatting offline, and I asked Chris about her artwork, and again, look at the smile on her face.
I know, I'm just like,
that's where Chris lights up. So, if any of your people or my people want to have a representation of their design and be able to hang it on their wall in this beautiful, beautiful display, then they can contact you as well. And they can do that through
chrisprochaska.com, or on Instagram, The Art of Human Design. And
nice.
I'm really excited about that, because I've been doing some portraits and of people and their energetic, the way I experience their energetic frequency, and templating the highest frequency in the art, so that every time you see it, it activates that highest frequency, the beauty in chaos, the beauty in all of our traits and the essence. So yeah.
How beautiful.
So fun. Awesome. I love it. I love geeking out with you. I love sharing time with you. I always learn so much when we're together, and I love co-teaching with you as well. Like every time, I'm always like, "Hey, Leann, what do you have to say?" when we're doing Q&A sessions with our students at BG5 and the Profit Potential workshops, and that is just every time I learn something new, and that's really what it's all about. It's just like, oh, there's another deeper piece, and that's really cool. And how can I experiment with that today? And so I hope each and every one of you will take whatever worked for you today, whatever resonated with you deeply today, and play with it and practice it and engage with it and experiment with it. And that's what it's really all about, like drop into the body, drop into your design, what's defined in your world, and also know that what's undefined, right? The epigenetics, as you were talking about, is where we have so much wisdom, and where we have so many opportunities for sharing that wisdom, and in many ways making money, which is based on our current reality. That's the exchange that we're doing. So There you go. It's okay to make money, everybody,
It is.
and it
It
will
is so.
probably change
Yes.
in
Yes.
the coming years.
Yes.
So thank you again
Thank
so
you,
much
Chris.
for being here, Leann, and everybody. Again, check out all the links below for um, Leann's mastery program, for the foundation course if you'd like to take the foundation course, and for Build a Revolution. All of those links are below. So happy you could
Fun.
join us today.
Thank
Take
you,
care,
Chris.
everyone.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.